3, 2, 1, go. Madam Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. In status quo, the systems in place by governments all around the world, especially in developing nations with the most amount of poverty, absent any form of mechanistic structures to be able to oversee what's happening, box and lock in the urban poor into a system of oppression. This system of oppression is characterized by reliance and lulling them into a false sense of security that the government will always be able to equally help them. This has to change, and we need a certain process in place in order to be able to bolster a sense of accountability, to push a sense of urgency for them to be able to improve their condition. Because this happens amidst a backdrop of scarcity. Things like inflation, things like the oil and energy crisis, and generally how a lot of these states struggle to be able to help the impoverished. There needs to be a way to determine who do we prioritize, how do we hold them accountable, and ultimately, the goal of this debate is being able to marginally help these poorest people for them to become, at best, middle class or probabilistically just better, being able to live on a day-to-day subsistence, but no longer being able to cripple the resources of the state. A few features of our model on side proposition. Number one, this is a value judgment assessments motion, and we think that this scheme is something good and something effective. What does this look like? This scheme looks like, but it's not limited to, given the limited budget of scarcity I mentioned in my pre-oration, being able to help the most marginalized and the most poor because this exists in a spectrum. Maybe gender or queer minorities, maybe those people who are cultural and religious minorities, maybe even people who are immigrants, these people who are working the hardest to be able to improve their condition. On both sides of this debate, we have to assume that this policy or what's going to happen is going to work. I understand it's not a policy motion, it's an assessment motion, so we have to assume some level of competence. So once these funds and once these efforts are given to the people who need it the most, they're going to be able to focus and lock in on those people to make sure, hey, are you able to send receipts to be able to prove that you're really buying medicine and food for your family? How is your job application process going? Can you show me proof in terms of you trying? I understand that it's a crazy job market, especially for those lower classes in society, but there's going to be a system of oversight to be able to make sure. And as a consequence, once these people over time are going to be able to make it, because obviously they need capital to maybe be able to start a small food cart business, or they need some capital to be able to travel and move to a rural or urban area with more opportunities, whether that be a dishwasher, whether that be in hospitality, or whether that be in waste management. These people are over time going to be helped less and less, so that it becomes an incentive structure for them to do things like get promoted, get regularized, and be able to improve. The money that is freed up when you're able to help these people less are going to funnel back and go to the very people who need it. This becomes a virtuous and beneficial capitalist incentive structure to reward those people who have the means, motivation, and capacity for those things. This is good, and we need this filtering process to be able to weed out those particular people who are malevolent and use it on vices, or people who are lazy and not trying and solely becoming reliant on the state. Sure, before I move on to my second point, POI.
Right. So the whole point or duty of the state is to provide welfare to the people by making welfare contingent on employment, which cannot exist without the conducive environment that's produced by welfare. Are you not defeating the fundamental duty of the state? Engage.
No, because my brother in Christ, resources are scarce, and in a perfect world, we want to help everyone. but it's actually on side opposition where you have this chicken and the egg problem of people becoming more reliant. The second thing I have to say is that we need to talk about the rise, right? This reliance implies that this is being done already, especially in a lot of developing nations, like in many parts of Asia, Latin America, and in Africa. And we think that over time, we're able to get access to more kinds of data. We need these data points to be able to determine and give feedback to how are we tracking these people? To what extent are they improving their condition? To what extent can we lessen their stipends or lessen their dolouts at the point in which they won't relapse and go back into below the poverty line, so that they can strategically be able to reallocate these things towards the very people who help it. TLDR, think of this like a springboard to be able to help those people who are, because of the birth lottery or because of circumstances, unable to help themselves. The third important point I have to talk about here is what support really looks like. And support can be done in direct or indirect ways, being able to vote local or international politicians who are able to support this, and generally not being a hater or being too negative, because as what we've seen in many social issues, people bitch all the time and get angry. We want people to be able to support it so that it can complement these data points to be able to help those people so we can more accurately over time improve the transitionary process. Make no mistake, I understand that any kind of system of government reform does have some sort of transitionary period, and that is something we're willing to be able to defend. What are the impacts here coming from our side of the house? There are four. Number one, a maximization of resources given scarcity to be able to match the opportunity cost of those people and reward them accordingly for trying more. Number two, the creation of a capitalistic beneficial incentive structure to be able to help these people improve their situation and fight towards becoming the middle class. Number three, a flip towards their POI, reinforcing state paternalism so that the state can actually do a good job at not making these people reliant on their systems, because in cases like economic turmoil, pandemic, or war, it's quite dangerous for them to be stuck on the state. We think this debate is about exercising agency to help these people, and we are very proud to help them and stand on side proposition. Thank you.